Oi, oi, good morning. This is Filthy Ketchup, aka Melanie. Thank you for tuning in with me this morning. Today we are talking about homelessness in Brighton. Brighton is a beautiful, beautiful city. It's on the southernmost tip of the UK. It's the gay capital of Europe. It's a beautiful, vibrant city to live in. However, the housing situation here is terrible. There is no housing at all, especially if you don't have money. I've lived here all my life. I went to school here. My parents and grandparents were born here. Nevertheless, I was homeless for a year. I lived on the streets for over a year in Brighton, all through the winter. I've also lived in halfway houses and temporary accommodation for more than 20 years, where I experienced a lot of harassment and bullying. Why is the housing situation so bad? What is it like being homeless for a woman? How can we remedy the situation? Thank you for tuning in with me today. Being on the streets as a woman is so hard. I mean, you can imagine things like washing. You have to walk miles to a day centre to have a shower. That's if they're even open. So most of the times you're dirty. Things like periods, you know, you can't get, like, if you can't afford like sanitary towels, like you can't like change yourself properly, you have to go in public toilets. And when you go in public toilets, you're abused by the staff. You're sexually assaulted. I was sexually assaulted numerous times on the street. I was actually raped on the street. um, you know you're constantly the butt of humiliation and harassment. Like, it's freezing cold, you never get any sleep, it's exhausting. Like, you can sleep for like 10 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, because you're constantly being harassed. Even though I've been through all that, for well over a year, even though I've been in like hostels and halfway houses for 20 years, like being bullied and harassed there, I've still been clean for a year. I can demonstrate that I've been clean for a year, and still I can't get housed. So we'll have to wait and see. I will keep you updated as to what's going on with my housing. I'm still waiting to hear back from Home Move. Apparently this will take years. If my application gets deleted again, I'll have to make a new application. If they change their website, I'll have to make a new application. Every time you make a new application, you go straight to the bottom of the list again, and it has to start all over again, which is why it takes years and years and years to get housed. I just My recovery is very strong at the moment. I know I will never use again. That's definitive. I can say that definitively. I know that I will never ever use again. But I will still be homeless. I'll still be housed in temporary accommodation. Even if I don't end up on the street again, I won't have my own place to live. And that, in this day and age, is unacceptable. Thank you for listening to me today. This is Filthy Ketchup. Whatever you do today, please love yourself. Please make good choices. Thank you. Bless you. Bye. Now, living on the streets as a woman, you can imagine, is very, very hard. Not only is it cold, not only is it dirty, not only is it extremely dangerous, but the effect on your mental health is also terrible. When people are either ignoring you or spitting at you or trying to assault you, as a woman, I was sexually assaulted, I was actually raped, I suffered a very great deal on the streets. I was running away from a domestic violence situation, a situation in where I was sexually exploited. I was deliberately addicted to drugs. I struggled with an opiate addiction for almost 25 years because of somebody deliberately putting me on drugs. Um, so I've fought a lot of very, very difficult situations in my time. And one of the worst situations in Brighton is trying to get stable housing. They're building a lot of new flats, they're building a lot of new housing in Brighton, but it's only for people with money, people who want to buy private housing, students, people like that. people who are homeless or living in temporary accommodation are at the very bottom of the pile. Even though I've lived here all my life, even though my parents and grandparents are from here, even though I've suffered so much and I've been clean for over a year, I'm still at the bottom of the pile, because I'm still, although I'm vulnerable, my history of addiction, whether it was my fault or not, puts me right at the bottom of the pile. And living on the streets, that's, for a woman, it's not a fun time. Every single day you are degraded, you are humiliated, you are screamed at, you are shouted at. One thing in Brighton, as I will say, there are a handful of really, really kind people out there. Like, there are people out there that really, really helped me. People that were kind to me, people that, went out of their way to make sure I was okay, like bringing me cups of tea, bringing me food and that kind of stuff. I will say though that they were the exception to the rule. Most of the time you're freezing, you're ill, people are being really horrible to you, you're being assaulted, you're being sexually harassed. It really, really, really is horrible. And even though I've been through all that, even though I can demonstrate that I've been clean and in recovery for over a year, still I'm right at the bottom of the pile when it comes to finding a safe and secure place to live. Now, we all know that in Brighton it's very, very difficult to get housed. But why is it difficult to get housed for a woman who's been here all her life? For a woman who has suffered like I have, and yet still is able to demonstrate recovery, I'm still at the bottom of the pile when it comes to housing. I mean, when you're homeless, it takes such a toll on your mental health, and then when you're put into temporary accommodation and you can still manage to get clean, you're still at the bottom of the pile when it comes to housing. I mean, like I said, I've been assaulted, I've been bullied, I've been harassed, I've been beaten up. You can see that scar on my forehead. I was assaulted on the street. Somebody came up to me out of nowhere and smashed a wine bottle over my head, split my head open. I've been sexually assaulted, I've been raped. I can demonstrate that I've been clean for a year, and still I can't get a flat for love nor money. The amount of flats that are being built in Brighton now, I can't get a flat, and it's just like the housing situation is just so terrible. I've been in hostels and temporary accommodation for 20 years, right? Surely, when all the new builds started coming up, when people started building the flats in Brighton, I thought, oh, this would be fantastic. There's loads more housing for people that need it. No, none of those new builds are going to people in need. They're all going to private buyers and students. There is no new build flats being built for people that are in need of a home. I have been on Sussex Home Move now for 3 years. My key workers put me on Sussex Home Move. Twice they've completely deleted my application, so I've had to make a new application. I've since made a new application. I've asked them to be put on something called automatic bidding, where they bid for properties for you. Still haven't heard anything back. That was months ago. I mean, it could take years and years and years, and you're still not guaranteed to get a flat. I've been homeless in Brighton now for over 20 years. I was actually on the streets for over a year, and I've been absolutely clean of all drugs, apart from my depression medication, which I have to take. Apart from my depression medication, I've been absolutely clean of all drugs for well over a year. I have no contact with people that are addicts. Like, that part of my life is absolutely over, and still I cannot get housed. It's just such an absolute outrage. I want to hear from anyone else out there who's had problems with housing, anyone out there who's had problems with homelessness. I know in other cities it can be almost impossible to get housed. In Brighton, it's absolutely impossible to get housed. It's not impossible for everyone. If you've got money, you can get housed. But if you're in what they call the homeless pathway, which is like a nice way of saying you don't have any money, then it's absolutely impossible to get any kind of help at all. And with the lockdown, I got clean just before the lockdown happened when COVID first started. I have been in recovery since that time. I've been absolutely clean of all drugs since that time, and I can demonstrate this, I can prove that. And still, I cannot get housed. You know, when you're on the streets as a woman, it's so hard.